Welcome back. Julian Shaw is a young man who seems wise beyond his years. He made his first movies at 5, wrote his first novel at 9 and started producing his first documentary at 15. It went on to win one of the top awards at the recent Documentary New Zealand Festival. Now, as Mark Kreisel reports, he's turned his lens on our national obsession.
This was just a book that I wrote when I was about 10, and this is a children's book.
He might be only 21, but Julian Shaw already has a significant body of work behind him.
This is my second book, actually.
Your second?
I must admit.
How old were you when you wrote your first book?
Well, I was 9 when I wrote.
It was while he was growing up in New Zealand that he started to see the big picture. At 4 years old, Julian was directing his family in videos.
Like, Mum, can you make me a sponge cake and put lots of cream on it? And then, you know, we'd wish him a happy birthday and he'd direct the camera angle and then he'd just plunge his face head first into it. So I'd say, yeah, that was his earliest movie.
It quickly became apparent to his parents that their son was something of a child prodigy.
He was so wise, seriously, I think from birth. He knew himself so well and he just had he had great rapport with people all the way through from his very early days on, and he was just, he was really special. I mean, you know, all mothers think their kids are special, but he was, and, you know, he's a gifted child, and just, yeah, pretty remarkable child.
All through his childhood, Julian was writing, drawing, and making remarkably mature movies.
In the bathroom this morning, the little bottles were glaring at me. Predatory. All day I feel like jaundice warmed up. I want to finger the sallow wood of deliverance.
By the time he was a teenager, his family had relocated to Sydney and he'd talked his way into an after-school job at his favourite magazine.
I'm Julian Shaw. I'm 16 years old and I write for a magazine called Filming.
When these pictures were shot, Julian was already well underway on his first documentary.
When I was 15 years old, I saw a show that changed my life. One man on stage, Pieter-Dirk Uys.
How was it there from the side?
Good, very good, very interesting. No one could see me because it was in a shadow.
That gives a nice different perspective, eh?
It changed my life. It really did, you know, in that one moment. I knew I had to tell his story.
There he is. This chap.
Julian watched a performance by Pieter-Dirk Uys, a South African political satirist, talking about the AIDS crisis.
But I went up to him after the show.
And when I met Julian, he was 15 years old.
And I said, mate, I think that you're a divine inspiration. And, you know, you might laugh at this, but I want to try and make my first film about you.
Oh, you want to make a film? He said, yes. I said, why don't you come to South Africa? Okay.
He said, okay, sure. Not believing for a second that this would eventuate.
Julian rang everyone he knew and asked for money, and by 16 he had enough to travel to South Africa and start shooting his documentary. But first of all, he had to ask his mother.
You know, my heart was in my mouth when I waved him goodbye because it seemed to me like an incredibly dangerous place. And here he was setting off on the first journey when he was only 16.
The people get shot here.
We get shot out, children.
It was dangerous, and Julian was naive. On his very first day in South Africa, he started filming in a township.
You know, there'd been like 2 people killed on the street that day. I mean, I went into people's homes with my camera. It was madness, you know. I mean, it's the kind of thing where a bullet could have just caught you, but maybe that's just the unbridled optimism of youth. I'm glad I got away with it.